What you're about to see will challenge everything you think you know about criminal psychology. This is 30-year-old Matthew Hoffman, captured on Walmart surveillance just hours after committing one of Ohio's most disturbing crimes. He's purchasing tarps, heavy-duty garbage bags, and a turkey sandwich at 12:17 a.m. In just 18 hours, a SWAT team will break down his door and discover something so bizarre that seasoned investigators still struggle to explain it. When they found 13-year-old Sarah Maynard bound and gagged in his basement, that was just the beginning. What they discovered throughout his house defied logic, challenged sanity, and revealed a mind operating on a completely different plane of reality. Leaves. Thousands upon thousands of leaves. Covering floors, stuffed in garbage bags, lining bathroom walls. But why? And where were Sarah's mother, little brother, and family friend? The answer would lead investigators to a hollowed-out tree in the woods, where they'd make a discovery that would haunt them forever.
This is the tree investigators say Matthew Hoffman left the remains of his victims. The hole you see here, cut by investigators to retrieve the...
But first, they had to break through the most unusual interrogation subject they'd ever encountered. For 4 hours, Matthew Hoffman sat in complete silence. Then, in just 3 seconds, everything changed.
I knew I must have done something wrong. And I found her in my house. She's tied up.
Tonight, we're diving deep into the mind of the Leaf Man. We'll analyze never-before-seen interrogation footage, examine the psychological profile of a killer who defies classification, and ask the question that still haunts Apple Valley, Ohio. What transforms an ordinary burglar into something far more sinister? Apple Valley, Ohio. Population 5,000. The kind of place where neighbors know each other's names and missing work without notice raises immediate red flags. November 10th, 2010 started like any other Wednesday for 32-year-old Tina Herman. Single mother of 2, reliable Dairy Queen manager, the type of person who never missed a shift without calling. But when 4 p.m. rolled around and Tina's station remained empty, her boss Valerie Hawthorne knew something was terribly wrong.
Sheriff Barber's office.
Hi, my name is Valerie Haythorne, and I work out at Dairy Queen. I'm the general manager out there. One of my employees did not show up for work this afternoon at 4 o'clock, which is totally uncharacteristic of her. She's one of my managers. I drove out by her house and went and knocked on the door, left her a note. She's not answering her phone, which is totally uncharacteristic. She's not answering her texts, and she is not at home, but her truck and her coat are in her house. Her truck's there and her coat is in the house. I'm very concerned about her.
What's her name?
Her name is Tina Herman, Herrmann.
Okay.
I know that she and her boyfriend are splitting up, and he can be a real jerk with her.
Okay. Do you have a phone number for her?
Oh God, I do, but it's in my phone. I'd have to call you back.
Okay, that's fine. What was your name again?
My name is Valerie Haythorne.
Okay. Okay, I will have a deputy swing out there and check on her.
Okay,
What Valerie didn't know was that 3
Done.
other people had also vanished without a trace. Sarah Maynard, 13, Cody Maynard, 10, and Stephanie Sprang, 41, Tina's best friend who'd stopped by for what should have been an ordinary visit. When police conducted their initial welfare check, they found nothing suspicious. No signs of struggle. No indication that anything was amiss. But Valerie Hawthorne wasn't satisfied. The next day, she made a decision that would crack the case wide open. Using an unlocked window on the back porch, Valerie entered Tina's home herself. What she found painted a very different picture: blood in the bathroom, blood on the carpet, blood splattered throughout the home, and drag marks leading to areas that suggested something horrific had occurred.
This is Deputy Sylvia. Can I help you?
Yes, this is Valerie Haythorne. I called in last night about Tina Herman being missing. I am out at her house now. I just went in her home because I'm so worried about her. There is blood everywhere.
Okay. Where are you at? I'm sorry. I just got back today, so.
Okay.
So you just need to kind of fill me in a little bit, okay?
Tina Herman works for me. She did not show up for work yesterday, and we have not been able to locate her or her children for it's been 24 hours now. I just spoke with...
No, I'm sorry, ma'am.
Okay.
I just need an address. I just need an address.
481 Kings Beach Drive in Apple Valley.
Okay. Just give us a few minutes, and we'll be en route, okay?
Okay, that's
Don't go back in the house.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying in the driveway.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Sarah
All right,
Chun,
bye.
forensic psychologist, has studied hundreds of crime scenes. She explains what investigators were seeing. The blood spatter patterns and drag marks immediately told investigators this wasn't a missing persons case anymore. This was a crime scene with multiple victims. The question was, where were the bodies? The first suspect was obvious. Gregory Borders, Tina's live-in boyfriend. They were in the middle of a messy breakup, living in the same house, but sleeping in separate rooms. Gregory had an alibi, but it seemed almost too convenient. He'd worked overtime at a distribution center 90 minutes away, then stayed at a friend's house to play golf the next day. But every minute of Gregory's time was accounted for. Co-workers confirmed his overtime. His friend verified dinner and television. Even his golf game was documented. With Gregory cleared, investigators turned to physical evidence. And that's when they caught their first real break, a receipt. Found at Tina's house among Walmart shopping bags. Tarps, heavy-duty garbage bags, and oddly enough, a turkey sandwich and a t-shirt. Detective Mike Thompson, lead investigator on the case. That receipt was like finding a needle in a haystack, except the needle led us directly to our suspect. We immediately pulled Walmart surveillance, and within hours, we had our man. Surveillance footage from Mount Vernon Walmart showed a man in camouflage making the purchase at 12:17 a.m. on November 11th. White male, 25 to 40 years old, brown hair, glasses, leaving in a silver Toyota Yaris. Ohio's law enforcement database quickly provided a match. Matthew J. Hoffman, 30 years old. 2 possible addresses, both within miles of Tina's home. And in his BMV photo taken just 16 days earlier, he was wearing the same style camouflage shirt captured on surveillance. But investigators didn't know they were about to enter the most bizarre crime scene of their careers. November 13, 2010, 3:47 a.m. A SWAT team surrounded Matthew Hoffman's rental home, unsure if they were about to rescue 4 kidnapping victims or recover 4 bodies. The no-knock warrant was executed with military precision. Flash grenade, battering ram, tactical entry. What they found was Matthew Hoffman asleep on a couch, but that was the least strange thing about his house. Leaves. Everywhere. The living room floor was covered in piles of leaves reaching knee-high. Garbage bags full of leaves lined the bathroom walls. Leaves in corners, leaves in closets, leaves in the kitchen. Officer Janet Rodriguez was among the first responders. In 15 years of police work, I'd never seen anything like it. It looked like someone had tried to bring an entire forest indoors. We initially thought the leaf piles might be hiding bodies. Thank God they weren't. But the real discovery came in the basement. Behind a cabinet blocking the doorway, officers found 13-year-old Sarah Maynard, bound with yellow rope and duct tape, lying on a sleeping bag atop more piles of leaves. She was alive, but clearly traumatized. Her first words to officers would haunt them forever. "Am I late for school? Do you know what happened to my dog?" Sarah was in shock, possibly dissociating from the trauma she'd endured. Dr. Chun explains this psychological response. When faced with overwhelming trauma, especially children, the mind can create a protective barrier. Sarah's questions about school and her dog suggest she was psychologically shielding herself from the full reality of what had happened. At Knox Community Hospital, Sarah provided investigators with their first detailed account of the crimes. She and her brother Cody had returned home from school on Wednesday to find Matthew Hoffman inside their house. He immediately attacked them. Sarah ran to her bedroom, but Matthew caught her, bound her, and left her on the kitchen floor. Then he loaded her into Stephanie's Jeep, drove to a parking lot, and left her covered in blankets while he returned to the house. Later, he moved her to his own vehicle and brought her to his home. For 4 days, Sarah remained bound in Matthew's basement. He fed her, let her watch the movie Iron Man, and gave her a copy of Treasure Island to read. But Sarah's testimony revealed something chilling about Matthew's state of mind. She told investigators that Matthew had repeatedly cut her finger with a knife. He'd sexually assaulted her, and he'd promised to release her before Christmas, though he never explained what happened to her mother, brother, or Stephanie. Sarah believed they were all dead. Matthew's house told a different story about his mental state. Eye in the freezer, 2 dead squirrels next to red popsicles. A bedroom converted into an inactive marijuana growing operation. And everywhere, obsessively collected leaves. Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Michael Roberts studied the crime scene. The leaf collection went far beyond any normal behavior. We're talking about thousands of leaves, methodically gathered and stored throughout every room. This suggested either a severe delusional disorder or an obsessive-compulsive behavior so extreme it bordered on psychotic. But where were Tina, Cody, and Stephanie? And what would Matthew reveal under interrogation? November 14, 2010. Matthew Hoffman sits across from experienced detectives in interview room 3 of the Knox County Sheriff's Office.
The paragraph says, "My rights have been explained to me and I understand each of those rights. Having those rights in mind, I'm willing this time to make a statement."
Silence. For over 4 hours, Matthew Hoffman sat in complete silence, not acknowledging questions, barely moving, staring straight ahead as if the detectives weren't even there. Criminal psychologist Dr. Amanda Foster has analyzed the footage. This level of non-responsiveness is extremely unusual. It could indicate catatonic behavior associated with severe mental illness, trauma response, or calculated manipulation. Without being able to examine him directly, it's impossible to determine which. Detectives tried everything.
Want to talk to one of us alone, or do you want us both in here, or you comfortable with both of us being here? Matt?
Direct questioning, building rapport, even speaking as if Matthew wasn't in the room.
Hey Matt, can I ask you a question? You look familiar. You look familiar to me. You work out at the gym?
Then Matthew did something that baffled everyone. He began making hand signals.
You know, other people, there's family members out there of other people, and all they want is closure. That's all they want. They've been up for days like you and I have, you know? Heart hurts. I don't understand sign language, man.
Placing his hand over his heart, gesturing as if his heart was broken. This wasn't sign language. It was something else entirely. These childlike gestures suggested either genuine psychological regression or a manipulative attempt to appear mentally incompetent.
Tell me what you want from us.
Here just to kind of think about all this, because I know it's overwhelming for you right now.
I'm beginning to think Matt don't care.
He cares.
Somebody will cry today. If I make a phone call after this interview, somebody will cry. But I guarantee you, some of that cry will be joy. Because they know where Cody is. They know where Tina is. They know where Stephanie is. I know they'll cry for somewhat joy, Matt, because I've already heard it with Sarah. What I'm probably going to do, Matt, is leave this room, and when I get away from these guys, probably cry like a baby. Because it's working on me, man. Big time.
After
Finally,
4 hours
after
and
sitting in
17
silence
minutes,
and almost
Matthew
completely
finally spoke.
Saying things I don't know. You know, I knew I must have done something wrong. And I found her in my house. She's tied up. And so I took care of her.
His choice of words was telling. Found her, as if Sarah had appeared mysteriously. Took care of her, as if he'd performed a kindness. This language pattern is common among psychopaths who rewrite their actions to cast themselves as heroes rather than perpetrators. A female detective, believed to be a forensic psychologist, took over the interrogation. Her approach was dramatically different.
What we were talking about earlier and kind of feeling alone, and that's definitely how I felt when I went to Chicago. I knew no one there. I was the only one out of my class sent there.
I think what we were talking about earlier, kind of feeling alone. That's definitely how I felt when I went to Chicago. She was building rapport, making Matthew feel understood rather than judged. The technique worked. Matthew began revealing details about his past. His conviction for arson in Colorado. His struggles with loneliness. His willingness to take antipsychotic medication if he had to.
So I did go out to Colorado after I graduated high school.
Did you?
That's where I got into my first trouble. I did something really bad. I pieced it together. I figured it out. And I went and turned myself in out of my first prison time.
But you went out there with a sense of purpose.
But Matthew maintained he couldn't remember what happened to the missing victims. Detectives decided to test this claim. They took Matthew on a drive through the areas where he claimed to have disposed of the bodies, hoping to trigger his memory. The drive revealed nothing. Matthew remained either genuinely unable to remember or unwilling to reveal the truth. Days passed. The interrogations continued. Matthew's behavior grew even more bizarre. In a private moment with a detective, Matthew revealed something that shocked even experienced investigators. "I want you to just shoot me." Matthew Hoffman wanted to die. He'd fabricated stories about finding body parts in his dreams, hoping police would kill him rather than force him to take antipsychotic medication for the rest of his life. But investigators needed answers for the families. Where were Tina, Cody, and Stephanie? November 18, 2010. After days of psychological maneuvering, Matthew Hoffman finally broke. In a written confession that would reveal the full scope of his crimes, Matthew admitted everything. He'd been stalking Tina's house, sleeping in the woods across the street. His original plan was simple burglary: enter when no one was home, take what he wanted, and disappear. But Tina and Stephanie returned unexpectedly. "I was in a total state of shock. I wandered around the house slowly, coming to realization of what I'd done and how bad it was." In his panic, Matthew had killed both women. When Sarah and Cody returned from school, he killed Cody too. He even killed the family dog because it wouldn't stop barking. Matthew led investigators to the Kokosing Wildlife Area, describing a location near a hollow tree where he disposed of the bodies. The search team found exactly what Matthew described: a massive beech tree with a hole about 6 feet from the ground. Inside the hollow tree, wrapped in the same garbage bags Matthew had purchased at Walmart, investigators found the remains of Tina Herman, Cody Maynard, Stephanie Sprang, and Tanner the dog. Detective Thompson describes the discovery. Matthew had used a pulley system to hoist the bodies up through the larger hole near the top of the tree. The level of planning and physical effort required showed this wasn't a crime of passion. This was methodical disposal. The tree itself may have held special significance for Matthew. As a tree trimmer, he would have been familiar with hollow trees. Forensic psychologists believe he may have even created this hollow himself during his work. The choice to hide the bodies inside a tree wasn't random. For someone with Matthew's leaf obsession and connection to trees through his work, this represented a return to something familiar and comforting. In his disturbed mind, he was returning them to nature. January 6, 2011. Matthew Hoffman stood before Judge Paul H. Crow for sentencing. By pleading guilty to 10 felonies, he avoided the death penalty. The sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. Mr. Hoffman, you have committed acts of unspeakable evil. This court sentences you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The leaf-filled house went into foreclosure. The hollow tree where the bodies were found was cut down. But questions about Matthew Hoffman remain. 3 years later, Matthew Hoffman remains imprisoned in Ohio, still obsessed with leaves. Prison reports indicate he continues collecting them in his cell whenever possible. Dr. Roberts has continued studying the case. Matthew represents a unique intersection of personality disorders, possible delusional thinking, and criminal behavior. His leaf obsession appears to be genuinely delusional, not something he could control or explain rationally. The investigation raised disturbing questions about missed opportunities. Matthew had been stopped by police near where Tina's van was found. Within the same hour, it was discovered. He'd been interviewed and released. His ex-girlfriend had reported domestic violence just 1 month before the murders. He'd been fired from his job for making his supervisor uncomfortable. Were these warning signs that could have prevented 4 deaths? Or was Matthew Hoffman's transformation from burglar to killer impossible to predict? Today, Sarah Maynard continues her recovery with her father's family. The trauma of those 4 days will likely affect her for the rest of her life, but she survived something that claimed everyone else in her family. The case of Matthew Hoffman challenges our understanding of criminal psychology. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of evil, the role of mental illness in violent crime, and the thin line between sanity and madness. But perhaps the most disturbing question of all is this: how many other Matthew Hoffmans are out there right now, sitting in their leaf-filled homes, waiting for the next unexpected encounter to transform them from strange neighbors into something far more dangerous? What do you think drove Matthew Hoffman to collect thousands of leaves throughout his home? Was this the behavior of someone suffering from severe mental illness, or something else entirely? And could this case have been prevented if authorities had acted differently on the warning signs? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the most puzzling criminal cases in America.